learn about the impact that this is having on the local businesses. Of course, I come from the chamber world. Before working for the state of Arizona, I worked for the Chamber of Commerce. So I understand that very well also. And the diversity of thought here and the perspective that we have from mayors to law enforcement, to business, to generations of being in this area, knowing the differences and where we've gone. Other outside counties that are seeing this in different ways, one right on the border of Santa Cruz, and then one in Graham of what impacts they're seeing as well. This is hurting and impacting everyone. And if I can sum up with one word what I heard here today, and the sense that I'm walking away with, is frustration. Frustration with the executive branch of the federal government. The ones that are in a position to do something about this, and they just will not. And that is something that I share in the frustration with the people that I represent here in Cochise County, Graham, Santa Cruz, and of course Pinal and Greenlee as well. So with that, CJ?
Summer, questions?
Yes, please. Representative Ciscomani, you have criticized Biden administration's closure of Lukeville Port of Entry. My question for you surrounds if you have asked the President or Secretary Mayorkas to reopen that port, and what is your plan as far as trying to advocate for economic interests of the local communities that closures like these do impact?
Absolutely, and thank you for the question. I've been very vocal on this, and even before it was closed, we wrote a letter, we reached out, and then we wrote a letter condemning the move and also offering a solution. And that's what I want you all to understand also. Whenever we are against something, whenever I'm against something, I'm going to offer a solution. It's not just complaining about it. So we offer that solution. And to prove that it wasn't a partisan issue, Greg Stanton, congressman from up north in the Phoenix area, and myself, we wrote a letter to the administration regarding the closure of Lukeville as well. And other members wrote their own letters also from both sides of the aisle on this. I had a specific meeting, a one-on-one meeting with the Chief of Staff of the Department of Homeland Security. Told him how much against this move we were, and that I really do not want to see any other port go through that in Arizona. Of course, that happened the next day in California, which we don't want to see. My job is Arizona, and that's what I've been in close contact with them, and so is my office, to make sure that this does not bleed into a Douglas port of entry, because it would be devastating. I heard from the mayor today, and you can ask him as well, what it would mean to our community if that port closes. 70 to 80% of the sales tax to our border communities comes from that cross-border tourism and trade. That's a huge number that would be devastating for our border communities, but for our entire state as well. So I will continue to be a strong voice on this, fight hard against it, and I learned from most around the table that they're willing to join us in joint letters so that I can go and say, this is what my mayors are saying. Both Democrat and Republican mayors are saying the same thing about this. So that gives me the tools to go back and do that.
Wonderful.
Thank you.
KOLD.
Congressman, as we know, the governor has sent or has made the act for the call to send the National Guard down to the border. This is something you said that you agree with and have been calling from the start. Do we know when those National Guardsmen are going to be heading down? And I know there's a lot of kind of confusion, a little going around about kind of what they're going to be doing,
yeah.
And then if they're going to be taken from other law enforcement agencies, as many of them are, deputies or in law enforcement.
Great question. Thank you for that, because that's very important. That's a very important distinction, and to explain what that is. Now, I've told you I work for the state of Arizona, so I was there when the Ducey administration made that deployment as well, and how that works. Know that firsthand. And that is up to the governor's prerogative and the leadership of the governor in terms of the timing. I think it should go immediately. Now, in terms of the duties of these guardsmen and women that will be sent down to the border, it's important to understand that they do not have the authority or jurisdiction to enforce federal law. That's a very important distinction. What they can do is alleviate the jobs that Border Patrol is being pulled out of their job to do, such as in processing, in monitoring screens, in doing things that the National Guard can come in and do that. I've visited the Border Patrol station plenty of times where I saw Arizona guardsmen and women helping with that, and that allowed Border Patrol to go out there and do their job that they've been trained for and they have the legal authority to do. So it's very important to know that the help that will come from the National Guard, the Arizona National Guard, will be on that, in that way specifically.
Sierra Vista Herald.
Hi, Senator.
Hi.
I want to know what the status was of your request to cancel CBP 1 appointments.
Yeah.
What is the status of that?
Yeah, did you call me senator? Yeah, so please, no. Call me Juan or other things. So that was something that I wrote that statement with Jim Jordan, and Jim being the chair of Judiciary, that he understands that issue and he's worked on that before. What this app is doing, it's allowing migrants to make appointments before coming into the country, and that is supposed to expedite the process. But again, that takes resources. That takes resources that are now our precious resources to go in and enforce the laws instead of finding out more ways to invite people in. That's how I see that playing out. They are just additional ways to make it easier for people to come across, have an appointment, and guess what? They take walk-ins as well. My gosh. Let's put the resources where they need to be. So in terms of the status, like in other things, I haven't heard back. I haven't heard back. And that is a tragedy. Because when you look around here and you talk to the people around this table, they've also made attempts to reach out to the administration, and they've also not heard back. It's not for lack of knowledge on how to fix the issue. It's for a lack of action on actually doing it. So thank you.
Eric, KUA.
Congressman, good to see you. Two things. You have called for changes to the asylum process. That's
Yeah.
what you said in your opening. What specific changes do you want to see? And secondly, Governor Abbott yesterday signed a law in Texas where migrants coming across can be arrested right away. I wonder if you think something is necessary like that here in Arizona. Is there any thoughts on that?
Thank you, Eric. That's a good question because it can be answered by what we passed in H.R. 2. When you look at the law that we passed, the bill that we passed out of the House, a lot of it and a lot of what I focused on, my feedback and input on that law had ended up looking the way it does now, was around two main aspects. One was tackling the issue of minors being trafficked and very little information being able to gather, and then the minors being recycled through again and again and again. So a lot of the work that I did on H.R. 2 was around that issue and also the asylum seeker process. Because what's happening right now, the threshold for credible fear of someone coming in and claiming asylum is low, and the requirements that have to prove if you really do have credible fear are low as well. So what we need to do is to increase those so that people that are claiming that they have credible fear to seek asylum have to meet a higher threshold beyond just, I'm out of work at home, I need to be in the United States, which is what's happening in a lot of areas. We see that in Nogales. Supervisor Bracker just mentioned that. How many people are coming in seeking that versus a real legitimate fear of religious or political persecution, which is what the asylum law was created to do. So one of the things that I'm proposing is to increase that, also to add the personnel on the interviews to make sure that people are told immediately within 3 to 5 days if they have a legitimate claim once it goes into investigation, and not have to wait for a court date 2.5 years in while they wait in the United States while that happens. All these actions, Eric, are just inviting more people to come in because they're almost guaranteed to be able to get in and then be able to stay. What we need to do is send a message by letting people know that once they cross it, they don't have a legitimate claim and they're going to be sent back. That is what would work on the asylum process. And we're a country of compassion. We're a country that want to help people, and that's why we need to leave the asylum door open for those that truly need it. But right now, those that truly need it may be missing out on it because of all those that don't need it that are abusing it.
Keegan.
I do have one question, Congressman. Thank you for having us. So let's just say Louisville is closed long-term, maybe still a month from now. What's the next action that Arizona can take? You're saying that it's a little confusing when it comes to the guardsmen. What can you and specifically Arizona leaders do? What's the next step?
Well, I think Arizona leaders, that's a scary scenario, first of all, for Lukeville to continue to be closed. Initially, we heard rumors it's the weekend, or it's the week, or it's a couple of weeks, and it's got no end in sight. And that is what the frustration is for everybody around the table, that when things are getting worse, there's no light at the end of the tunnel of saying there's some positive action being taken, or there's a date where things are going to get better, where Remain in Mexico will go back in, where a version of Title 42 will go back in. These things are not in the horizon. So when we talk about closing Lukeville indefinitely, a month, 6 weeks, 2 months, that is a scary thought for everybody on this side of the border as well. And I think every Arizona leader, and whatever level we're in, we have to voice that frustration. And I'm glad that Governor Hobbs listened to whoever was reaching out to her. That's a testament that when it comes down to it and they hear from their local leaders, you know, the people on top may take action on this. I've been on this since the beginning, and you know that. But it was frustrating to see that others were not. But now they're coming along to it. So I think that unity in message on there, from the entire delegation perhaps, from the local mayors, from even Nogales, that they're seeing the overflow of Lukeville coming over to Nogales and overburdening a port that is already too busy and not equipped to take that traffic. This is what it's going to take. Everybody around the table. And that's why I mentioned that one of the strategies that we're going to do is have unified messaging from everybody here to make sure that the White House hears us together. Thank you.
We have time for one more question.
All right, Representative Siscomani, what do you see are the effects, considering the economy, on the closure of Lukeville? Do you see any negative impacts resulting from that decision?
Devastating impacts on the economy. Melanie's here, and I got to tell you, I wish we would have recorded her passionate remarks on this as she's speaking and advocating on behalf of the businesses. I come from the chamber world, and her job is to advocate for the local businesses, and she did that incredibly today, because I could sense it, because all this hurts the local economy. And if Sierra Vista and Cochise County is feeling it without a port closure, imagine what Lukeville is feeling in that area as well. It's a smaller area, but the amount of traffic that goes through, and a tourist destination of Rocky Point, that hurts everyone. And guess what? It hurts Sonora as well. It absolutely hurts Sonora as well. So once again, no one is winning here. But it does have a big impact on businesses that their sales, I don't want to put Bruce's quote out there, but his sales on his business are down. If he's comfortable, he'll tell you how much. But they are down. And so it's not speculation. You just got to look at the small businesses around the table, the ones that represent them and the ones that have them, the ones that have been working in generations in this area, and that'll tell you what's happening.
Thank you.
Thank you so much. Thanks, everyone.
Thank you, everyone.
Thank you.